What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Chances are that if you're here, you are like us and you like to race. So with the help of our partner at MassiveSpeedSystem.com, we're going to get one of you guys to come race one of these cars with us at 10,000 subscribers. So all you need to do is be 18, be able to get yourself to the track in Wisconsin, and comment down below, "I'm in," and that will let us know who to put on the list. Tell all your friends, and you might just be out with us racing one of these cars. As you saw in the previous one, we started gutting this Prelude down. So now this is going to be the first day that we start putting it together. So we got a bunch of supplies in. We got, I think, about 80 feet of roll bar tube. In the last video we did, we actually bought a pre-bent cage kit that anyone could go and buy to kind of put in. I wanted to show everybody, you know, kind of the easiest way to get in here doing this and to get out racing. So not everybody has a bender like this. This happens to be a JD squared bender. Not everybody has one, everybody can afford one, but chances are for basically the cost of the tube, so this is about 300 bucks worth of tube, you can actually buy a whole kit that is already bent into a cage. I will try to link that video either in the description or a little pop-up banner. But yeah, so we got the car all gutted out like you saw before, and we're gonna start getting some base plates in. We got some basic 3/16 sheet metal there. We got all of our roll bar tubing here, which is 1 3/4 95 wall. 90% of the rules will say that you're going to need 1 3/4 95 wall at least. So your B hoop and the main bars, door bars, all that are going to have to be 1 3/4. From our last car, we learned that brakes are pretty important. So we got some new brakes here. These are actually the cheapest ones off of eBay, and they happen to be drilled and slotted. Not sure if I'm a huge fan of the drill holes, but Massive hooked us up with that, so we're going to give them a shot and see if they work. We got some new ball joints because Hondas always have bad ball joints. One of our shocks is leaking. We got a new shock here, so we're going to get that in, and I think we have another one on the way. These were only like 12 bucks a piece or something like that off eBay, so we got less than 100 bucks worth of parts. We got some new brake pads. Make sure you get some decent brake pads. With these cars, especially when you're building them right away, you don't really know what the person had on it before. It could be some Chinese crap, some Midas stuff. I mean, somebody could have put good stuff on there. You never really know. So we're just going to go ahead, since these races are super hard on brakes, we're going to do new pads and rotors just for a peace of mind. Got the new ball joints, and yeah. Dad's over here again helping out. So we're gonna get to sticking some tube in this bender and making a roll cage. We have our little cheater bars there. I mean, the basic idea is we have one 60-degree bend, one 30-degree bend. Obviously from the flat line of the roof to the vertical part of the floor here is a 90-degree difference. So you have one roughly 60-degree bend on top, and you have one roughly 30-degree bend there. So we're gonna get to measuring where the bends need to be with our little cheater bars and start bending some tube. All right, so here you are inside the car. First thing you're gonna wanna do is figure out where you want your base plates. You can either put them down here in this corner, you can build a box to set the tube on, you can just do the plate on the floor on the bottom there, or you can do them up here. It's just gonna kind of depend on the driver and the car and you know what you like to do. Every car is different, every driver is different. You know, if you're a taller guy, you probably want to have the seat back further, so it's better to have it back up here so that way you can maximize your leg room. I'm actually shorter, so usually I end up putting them down here, but I think for this car it's going to make more sense to just put it up here. So what we did was we have our cheater bars, and figure out where you want this. You mark the center line in the roof, which is actually in between those two dots. You can see the black line there. So then we're just going to measure from the center there to the first bend, and then the distance between the two bends here, and then the distance between the bend there and the floor. So this is where your cheater bars come in. So as you can see, I have the basic layout there of what the B-hoop is going to look like. We have the tubes marked where the start of the bends are on each one. And then this is 1 3/4. I stuck a piece of 1.5 inches in the middle here, and that you can kind of like adjust to the different length. And then you find the sweet spot where it needs to be, and then you can measure between those two. You can measure from here to the center of the car, and then you can measure from there down to the base plate on the floor. So that's why it's key to take a couple extra pieces of tube and make these cheater bars, and basically you can get your measurements for B-hoop pretty quick that way. We got our bender all set up, we got all the tube we need, we got our measurements done, and now we're going to start bending. Alright, so we got our first piece of tube out. We got the center marked. We have each of our bends marked with the help of some math. They also do sell like software to help you with this. You can just input the measurements and it like spits out numbers, but we're not that fancy here, so we just do it the old school way. You want to keep the bar clean when you go to put it in here. We grease up the dies to you know, help that out a little bit. And one other thing you got to remember is when you go to start this, you have to, every die might be different, but for this particular one there's like a 7/16 delay before it actually starts to bend in the die. So we got our actual bend there, and then we have the spread of the delay in the die. So just keep that in mind if you happen to get one of these benders and are doing this yourself. There always is some sort of delay. Just make sure you're zeroed out when you go to start. And yeah, so we got our bar all measured out, and we're going to start bending. Alright, so we got our first 30-degree bend. Now to make sure that it goes smoothly, we got our mark there, and then you also want to make sure that the tube is level from now on so that it all ends up in a straight line. So that's the only thing after you start your bends that you really have to watch for, is to make sure that that is level. So yeah, once again, the important thing is when you start the second bend, make sure you got the level on the other end down there so that it all stays in one nice even plane. Alright, so there's our initial B-hoop done. It's looking pretty decent. So we have a little bit of extra length on the legs there, so we're just going to have to trim the bottom of the legs off, and then we can get her jammed in there and check the fit. Alright, we got our initial test fit in. Pretty tight on the roof there. It's looking good. Nice and tight on the side. A little bit of gap there, more than I usually like, but no big deal. Still pretty good fit. And driver's side is pretty much the same. So we're looking good on the B-hoop. We will probably have to trim a little more off the leg there once we get the base plate in, but you know, that's only 3/16 of an inch or so no big deal. And yeah, turned out pretty good. Alright, so the next bars we have to do are going to be the A-pillar bars, which are going to go like this. The last car The pre-bent kit that we used, it actually had like a hoop on the top, which is really popular in circle track. I'm not a huge fan of that, just for the simple fact that it leaves a lot of gap up at the top of the roof up here. So the bar is actually kind of like hanging in space, and it takes up a lot of room where your head is going to be. So when you do the bar basically from the B-hoop along the roof, down the windshield and then down, you can actually fit it really nicely against the roof line and buy yourself as much headroom as possible, because the last thing you want to do is whack your head against that roll bar. So that's the way I like to do it, and then I just run a straight bar across the top of the windshield like that to the other one, and that's the way I prefer to do it. Obviously everybody's different, so depending who's doing your cage and how they like to do it, they might think the other way is better, but for me that's what I like to do. So we're going to start on bending those up, and well, first measuring and then bending them up. Alright, so once again we are using our cheater pieces here because we're doing basically another 90. I think we'll do a little bit less than a 60 on the end over here, but this is going to be your basic shape of the A-pillar bar. So we got above the driver's head, along the roof line, down the windshield, and then down to the floor. So the only thing that you have to watch when you do this is, since the roof of the car actually kind of bends in this way, one of the bends, I think it's the bottom one, I forget, it's been a while, but one of the bends has to be at the angle of the roof in. So you have to bend one this way, then you have to bend the other side this way. So there are different, same measurements, but different angles. So then you have a driver's side and a passenger side A-pillar bar. So we are going to figure out our marks on our next tube and get to bending that one. Alright, so we added up all of our measurements and cut a single piece of tube, a little bit longer, obviously, to have a little bit extra on the ends, hopefully. You can always trim it down later. But we got the 30-degree side in there ready to get bent. We have our marks for the 60, which we're probably going to go a little bit less than 60 and just see kind of where we're at. So we're going to start bending up the first A-pillar bar and see how it fits. Alright, so this is the tricky part of this bend. So like I said, we're doing the A-pillar bar, not like a roof hoop. So the angle of the windshield is kind of hard to figure out what you need, but this one in particular is right around 22, 23. I've had other cars that were 5, in between at like 12. So every car is going to be different. The tricky part about it, like I said, is you have to angle this one down for one side and then angle it up 22, 23 degrees on for the other side, and it can be kind of tricky to get that right. So we're going to give this one a try and see how it fits. Alright, this is our initial fit. As you can see, once we notch this out, it should fit up in there a little bit nicer, a little bit better. Slide that back a little bit and we'll be in good shape. So our 22 degrees of angle was right, and got that fitting up in there pretty nice. So now we just have to flip the other one up in the bender instead of down like this, and then that will be the right way for the driver's side. And then those are pretty much the hardest bars in the whole cage to make. So after you're done with that, you just have to bend the door bars, and the rest are pretty much straight. So we're gonna get to making the other one for over here on the driver's side now, and make sure that one fits up and keep on trucking.